Hey guys, it's Lorth here. So, it's been another week, and I'm excited to show off my progress. Just to preface, I put in around 2 hours a day on this, and I don't really work on the project on Friday or Saturday. I put a little more work on Sunday after the PC gaming show ended, but that's really didn't spend a lot of time on this week. So, jumping right into actually showing off what I did this time and doubling back for technicals later, you'll notice that I made a stylized health bar based off the American flag, which turns a sickly zombie green as you take damage. I might be taking the patriotism joke too far, but it just felt to me that when as the last man standing between our nation and the zombie hordes, our health is America's health. In all seriousness, though, I wanted something more stylish than the flat colored bars that take 3 seconds to make in Unity. The next thing you probably noticed is that there's god dang zombies coming at me. We've got a system that spawns zombies now. It's not perfect. I'll talk a little bit more about it in the technical section once we get done with the overview. You probably also noticed that I've replaced the checkerboard that I was using to make sure the movement controls worked with something resembling an actual level. There's still no real goal, but that's my next major hurdle to leap. Finally, if we come down here, I've placed the first weapon upgrade. This just increases our rate of fire right now, but later I intend for us to be able to switch weapons, and I'm hoping to give each weapon its own flavor and role, with different weapons having some fun upgrades that might make you choose them over other weapons. Quick stop by assets before we talk about technicals. The two assets you've seen, the flag-themed health bar and the weapon upgrade, were made by me. The weapon upgrade sprite I made very early in development, trying to get some practice with the axis creation, and for that I used a program known as GIMP. GIMP is the GNU Image Manipulation Program, which is basically open source budget Photoshop. Hats off to the folks at GIMP for all their hard work on creating the great software tool for image manipulation that I've used for years. But the flag asset is actually two sprites. One sprite that contains the blue section with the stars, and one sprite that's only the red and white stripes. This allows me to either tile it or stretch it to create a flag of virtually any length. These two sprites were made in Pixelorama. Pixelorama? I don't know. Which is a free and open source pixel art editor made in the Godot engine. I recommend you check it out. I'll link in the description. And if you find it to your taste, throw the good people at Orama Interactive a few bucks, as thanks for their awesome work. On the technical side, the health bar's damage effect is pretty simple. We create a rectangle that is the same size as the flag, and we make it transparent gray-green. We set the pivot to the far side of the health bar, and we scale it to 1 minus the player's health percentage in decimal form. So full health is 0 scale, 0 health is full scale. I was doing this a slightly different way originally, but I noticed that when I resized my window, things got a little wonky, so I spent some time setting it up the way it is now, and it seems to work great. Code-wise, this uses signals that I hook up in the editor, but in the future I'll probably want to hook the signals up in code. Then I spent some time fiddling with a culling system, with the idea that I might just make a few of these buildings enterable, but you wouldn't be able to see in or out of them. While the quick and dirty would have worked for this prototype map, since there are walls with flat black tiles anyway, the system I was going to use actually hides the tile that's blocking the light, so you'd find the light blocked off by just like a black void. I have a few ideas for workarounds, but decided to just shelf the idea until later in development when I actually have it used for interiors. Originally, when I blocked this level out, it was absolutely massive, and you ran into situations where you couldn't even tell you were moving before I had the zombies in. Because it's just an open ocean of white space. I condensed the areas a bit, so the area I'm defining as the quote-unquote street isn't as massive. It still needs work, but at least the scale isn't absurd. While I was doing this, I moved the player's spawn point, and I discovered a bug where the zombies would just acquire the tile map itself as a target, and then bunch up around it trying to attack it. This was caused by me not really understanding the collision when I set them all up. There's collision layers, and there's a collision mask. Collision layers are where the object exists, and the collision map is where the objects that object can collide with exist. It's not super well explained by the tooltip, so it tripped me up a little bit. So for the spawning system, I've attached some spawners to the player out of the camera range. There's an object responsible for randomly distributing zombie spawns amongst the different spawners, but the real tricky part comes from when the spawners have to worry about level geometry. What I've done for the simple prototype is I use these raycast 2D nodes from the spawn point that point to the player's location, and they only collide with the level geometry. If the ray doesn't hit anything, that means that the zombies have a straight line of sight to our players from the spawn point. So we treat it as eligible for spawning zombies. This has the benefit of stopping zombies from spawning inside walls or outside the level, and it also doesn't place zombies somewhere that they can't path to the player with their simple AI. In the future, I'll want to create a more complex system for spawning zombies, since if I ever have geometry complex enough, the player might be able to find places where zombies can't spawn that they can just stand at. I did get tripped up a bit with the zombie spawning offset from the spawn point. Zombies would just get placed in weird locations inside walls sometimes, and sometimes then I had a problem with zombies not getting deleted when the level reloads, but I just kind of figured out I can set the global position directly, and I parented them to the level and not the scene root, which is responsible for reloading the level. Solve those problems. Next week, I plan to work on an end level event and add a victory screen. This might take more time in the planning phase than the development phase, so I expect it to take at least a week for me to pick how I actually want to do it. I have ideas for what to talk about in the next devlog if I don't have much to show, so no big deal there. Basic multiplayer, the last thing I wanted for a prototype, I'm going to budget about 3 weeks for that. That might not even be enough. Multiplayer is difficult. So, that's it for devlog 2. Hopefully I'll see you next week. As always, be inspired.